And then I see him, I walk up to him, and I'm kind of starstruck because I'd seen him on all the TV shows. And I was like, hey, and he shakes my hand. He's like, man, you suck at this. I was like, oh, thank you. Great to meet you. But yeah, I feel like as a man, if you don't know how to fight, that's one of your defining characteristics, is being able to defend and protect. Like locally, they're all big names, right? It's the guy who's killing Americans doing this. Does it make it to the press? No. There was one night where we were going door to door to door to door, and somebody in one of the houses yelled avalanche, right? Get the f*** out of the house, the bomb's gonna go off. This is how easy it is to find somebody. This is how easy it is to kill them if you want them dead. I would get a call from the CIA saying, hey, we've got a guy at a place. He's logged into this account. Go get him. Like, what are you talking about? Like, well, go do what you do. Get him.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome my next guest to the podcast. He spent 9.5 years on active duty as a SEAL team member, did multiple deployments, one to Iraq and one to Afghanistan that we're going to get into. He is the founder of Defense Strategies Group out in communist California, which we're going to talk about, which basically teaches people how to be badasses. We're going to get all into what he does and how he does it. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Mike O'Dowd.
Thanks, Mike.
Do you like to go by your actual name, or do you like to keep it what you have on social media?
No, Mike is good.
Okay.
Michael.
I mean, we don't have to say your last name we can edit that out if you want.
No, whatever you want to say.
All right.
Just Michael is like my mom calls me that when I'm in trouble. So I don't.
All right. What's the last full book that you read?
Last full book. So I do audiobooks.
Okay.
I'm a slow reader, and I don't have the attention span or the time to sit and read. The last audiobook I just finished was, I've been doing Hemingway books.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're more of a classic book guy?
No.
Not normally?
I just started, and I really like them.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of Hemingway stuff resonates, I think with any soldier it would resonate, because just the way he writes and the way he lived is so common to our experiences. I don't know. I'm drawn to it.
Yeah. Is there, I guess, a certain element of it that drew you to it here recently, of wanting to go more classic as opposed to something more recent?
I think you can learn a lot of lessons from history and from classic stories. You can get the same out of today's stories, but I don't know. Most of the things I see today are they're not written in the same way, or the stories aren't interesting, or it's political. There's something like romantic about reading something from World War II, World War I, or even pre that that you can't get from today.
I agree. I think one of the neatest things or ways to look at books, especially old ones, take say like Marcus Aurelius. To me, like, if you look at it from a standpoint of, like, this dude from several thousand years ago is communicating to us in present day.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other way to have that happen, and so to me, like, that makes me way more interested in really old writing, because it's like, to me, it's just such a fascinating way to look at it,
Yeah, I think people finished thoughts. They would write entire books on one single topic, and you could see the thought process was there was time taken into writing it, and it wasn't just top of the mind, like garbage spit out. Yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah. What are you most grateful for?
What am I most grateful for? I'm grateful for my kids. My family, that we are happy, healthy. There's so much in the world going on at all times that is like terrible. And when you look at it, you look at the world in a dark picture a lot. I think in the industry we were always in. I look at my kids, and it's like this raw, beautiful, joyous, happy thing in my life. And I'm so grateful for that, because in some of the darkest times of my life, that's what gave me the most joy. It was looking at my kids and going, all right, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. That's powerful for sure. I mean, not surprising, but powerful nonetheless. I mean, that's everything, you know?
Yeah.
What's something that you wish you were better at?
Wish I was better at, oh, jeez.
I'm surprised laying pipe didn't come right out of it.
I've been trying to get better at this my entire life, but I just wish I was good at it. Was just never losing my cool.
Yeah.
People sometimes are like, oh, you're so calm. And it's like, yeah, but not always.
Yeah.
And sometimes I lose my shit. And that's like the one moment where I feel regret. Like when I lose my cool, no matter what the circumstance, later on I think about it, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. Are you into stoicism at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the way that it's rationalized as to why it's so important to be able to manage. People say manage, control your emotions, but I think it's further than that. I mean, your emotions are what they are. You can't control them. You can control how they make you act or not. And to me, that's the big thing. I'm right there with you. There's certainly times where I do, and immediately I'm like, God damn it. Like, it just makes you feel so weak. Yeah,
I feel like in the military, I misinterpreted stoicism as like just masking or not feeling emotion, rather than feeling them, but then acting a certain way.
Yeah.
Staying calm. And it repressed a lot of emotions, and then getting out, it was like this terrible experience of, oh my God, like I have all these feelings that I can't feel anything, but I have to let them out. And now I've gotten better at actually feeling emotion and going through the cycle of emotion, but also staying calm and cool no matter what that emotion is.
Yeah. I think that's a never-ending journey, working on that too, I'm right there with you, though. What is your normal morning routine for, say, the first 2 or 3 hours when you get up? What time and what do you do?
I try to get up between 5:30 and 6:30 every day. I'd say most days that's it. Workout, whatever the workout is. Love to scrap, jiu-jitsu, fighting, but also whatever I'm training for that time. Like right now I'm training for a marathon, so I'm running more, which sucks, but it is what it is. So get that workout out of the way, gets the blood flowing, and then I have this process of coffee where I like to, I don't just press the Keurig. It's gotta go in a press, put the hot water over it, get the grinds just right. And if I do that and I cook like a quick breakfast, then I feel like my morning is complete and it's ready to go on the day. And if I don't do it, I feel like there's a little bit missing.
Yeah. So I'm curious on the coffee thing. If you were to do a blind taste test, do you think for 100% you could tell the difference between pushing a Keurig button and doing the pour over thing?
I couldn't tell if you paid me $1 million.
It's just the routine. It's the ritual of it.
I put so much shit in my coffee that
it doesn't even matter.
Might as well be like a Starbucks mochaccino or something. Yeah. But I do like it. So I do something weird. I put honey and cinnamon, and then sometimes I'll put like a milk or whatever fashionable milk is at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't actually give a shit about. Sometimes I'll make a full pot or full press, and I'll just have like a couple sips. But it's actually the process of making it. I'm that way with cooking too. I won't even eat the whole plate, but the cooking, the process going through it, the focus. It's like the one time a day guaranteed where I focus on nothing else but exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What are the two key components for canine success? That's effective training and proper nutrition. Fueled by Team Dog brings those two components to your family and best friend. The perfect nutritional balance that results in a higher mental acuity, energy, overall vitality, and even an improved appearance. Every product you will find in my company's store was born from the battlefield and not from the boardroom. Let my life's work help you become your dog's hero.
Wow. I certainly understand that. I think being particular about everything makes sense. The adage, how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you're paying attention to detail and you're particular and following directions or whatever, it's kind of that way for everything, and not doing that makes you feel like you screwed it up.
Yeah.
You mentioned jiu-jitsu fighting and stuff. Do you do that as a staple, kind of irrespective of other things that are going on? Is that like a core?
Yeah. Like I tell my kids, you have to play a sport. Jiu-jitsu is not that sport. Jiu-jitsu is just your life, and then the sport is separate from that. Like, it doesn't count as exercise, so I have to go to the gym or run and go to jiu-jitsu or fighting. It doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu. It's just something
Combatives.
I do a little more training because it's a little easier on your body.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like as a man, if you don't know how to fight, that's one of your defining characteristics, is being able to defend and protect. So I've been doing that for about 22, about 20 years, 22
Really?
years. On and off, mostly off. That's why I'm not like a 4th degree black belt or something.
Yeah. Where you train now, is it a particular franchise kind of gym, or is it an offshoot?
No, I've really found a community with a Carlson Gracie gym, but I've trained at all these different gyms. I've been really lucky. I found a lot of friends who have gyms, and I kind of pay homage to all these guys. To say like one person or one school taught me all of this, it'd be bullshit. I've learned from so many people over the years and taken different styles and pick and choose what I like and don't like. It's I think that's the way I train at everything, is see what everything that's out there, the way I shoot, the way I fight, the way I cook, try to get the information from everywhere, and then make your own. That's the real mastery, is when you make it your own, you're now the master. With jiu-jitsu, I've not made it my own yet, not the master, but I start to.
Yeah. Do you have, how would you characterize your, air quotes, game, jiu-jitsu wise? Can you classify it that way?
Definitely like top game. I think that's like the Carlson Gracie background is, the fight is always won like up, being on top, standing. The new like leg lock game, scooting on your butt, all that bullshit. It's very effective for the game of jiu-jitsu, and I'm still learning it. Have to try more because it is really effective. But in a real fight in the street, with other people involved, weapons, things that you just can't see, it's a really bad strategy. Staying up, more like combatives.
Yeah.
Right, head on a swivel. You're never fighting fair. That's how I like to train. So even though I'm playing a game, I like to pretend and imagine it's not the game.
Yeah. So more of a dominant style.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. Do you have a favorite submission?
No.
Yeah. One that you're the best at, or that you find that you are successful the more than the rest?
Eye gouging. No.
Biting. I like to bite.
Yeah, I've got long legs, so I like to use them. I feel like I can use limbs quite well.
Yeah.
But that's my go-to is more just like dominant position, prepping for like striking, things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Where are you originally from?
Los Angeles.
So you're from there.
Yeah.
So that explains a little bit.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up in LA? What, in the 80s? 90s?
Yeah, 80s, 90s. I was born in 84. Growing up in LA, you don't know any better where you grow up.
It's a lot different too, right?
It is. I think I'm different, but also growing up there was different. I grew up in a very wealthy neighborhood, but in rent control housing. So it was this very strange feeling of having all friends who are wealthy or live in like massive homes, and being kind of like the poor kid. Not that I was poor, but you know when you live in a small shitty apartment and all your friends have like big homes.
Yeah.
You know that difference. But my friends were, just great normal people. when I went off to college, when I came home, and then when I went off to the military and then came back as well, that time separation, like you realize, oh wow, like this place is different. This place is incredibly opposite in my compared to my beliefs. Yeah, like it's mostly the people. It's not the place, right? 6 a.m. you wake up in Los Angeles. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. You're at the beach. You look up the coast at Malibu and down the coast at Palos Verdes. I compare it to anywhere on the planet. It's absolutely amazing. And then the people wake up.
Yeah, and fuck it all up.
Not all of it. I just in majority, you know, wherever you live, there's great people, there's bad people, but that city is it's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, I haven't been to LA specifically in a couple of years now, but the last time I was there, I was really disheartened by what I saw. Mm-hmm. Can you delve into a little more about the housing situation, mom and dad, siblings, kind of what transpired for you guys to be in that position, if you don't mind?
Yeah, my mom raised me. My mom and dad split when I was, not even one, I don't think. My mom raised me, and she was on her own. My dad was in the picture occasionally. If you asked him, it was more than actual. I think sometimes once a month, once every 2 months, I would see him. But I didn't have that like strong male role model in my life. My mom dated, guys, and they would come and go, but there were very few strong role models. I had a couple, but it just wasn't that frequent role model. So I didn't have the dad like teaching me how to fix cars, teaching me how to hunt, tie knots, man shit. I learned a lot of other stuff, cool things, but it wasn't that. It wasn't until the military where I started learning that man stuff, and even in my 30s where I was learning those valuable skills. So yeah, growing up there was it was a different experience. I can relate really well to urban LA New Yorkers who are raised a certain way. I can relate to them. I know what they're thinking. I know why they are the way they are. But then I got to experience, let's say, the other side where none of that shit matters, and it's all about I don't even know the word to describe it, but we'll just call it military skills.
Yeah.
Life skills.
Yeah. The occasional guy that your mom dated, did you ever have any problems with any of them? Like, did you ever get to a point where they were not treating your mom well, and you had that maybe take a shot at the title fucking moment?
Yeah. There were a few. I was young and didn't really know how to fight. I had a really loud fucking mouth and no skills to back it up. My mom.
It's a good combo.
Used to say squeaky wheel gets the grease, and it meant like fighting for what you want. But she didn't say, oh, and then by the way, train to be tough. Yeah. So yeah, until I was about 16 or 17, I used to get my ass kicked a lot. Just say something on your mind. But the guys she would date, some of them were really great guys, but I felt like I had to be the protector. There were occasions, I remember one time she came home from a date and said some guy was being really aggressive, and he came to the door, and I answered the door with like a baseball bat. And when he ran off, I remember thinking, oh shit, I'm the man.
Yeah.
Like I got this.
Yeah. How old were you there?
Probably 16.
Yeah. Okay. It makes me think, putting myself in that guy's shoes, like, I don't know how that couldn't cause some serious introspection if the woman you're dating's teenage son answers the door with a baseball bat. Like, you've got to think to yourself, like, how did I fuck up this bad? Like, how am I this big of a piece of shit? I don't know. Yeah.
It's never happened to me on a date, which
well,
maybe means you're doing something right.
I hope so, yeah.
But yeah, the type of fucking scumbag to like go on a date, or like, some guys would be dating her and they would just like totally disregard me, like, oh yeah, what's up, man? And you're like, how the lack of empathy to look at the son of a single mom and be like, oh, I don't need to pay attention to that guy.
Yeah.
Like, that's her world, and I don't give a shit about it. I'm just trying to get laid.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's obvious where their head's at if that's the case.
Yeah.
Did you have any siblings?
No, step siblings. I currently have a few step siblings, and then when I was growing up, like really young, had a stepsister for a while.
Yeah. Did you play any sports growing up?
Yeah, played hockey for in Los Angeles. I know everyone's like, oh, that's strange. Played hockey till I was 18. Went to school, and then I wrestled, and then I played freshman football. And I always laugh about that because I was 135 pounds, and my freshman football coach put me at defensive end. I don't really watch football. I don't watch football much, so I don't know a ton about it. But I do know that a defensive end is a monster.
Yeah.
And I was 135 pounds, so I would often take flight against big guys.
Yeah. Well, if you can believe it, you were 30 pounds heavier than me as a freshman. So I was a fucking runt as a freshman.
Okay.
And got the fuck beat out of me a bunch of times. But all right. So when was the first time that you thought or had the kind of light switch moment of joining the military? Was it in childhood years, or was it not until after you went to college? And
yeah, no, it was childhood. I remember, maybe not the date, maybe 12 or 13 years old, that Discovery Channel documentary had come on.
Class 234 one?
Yeah. And I just remember watching these men, and I was like, holy shit. And I told my mom, I was like, that's what I'm going to do when I grow up. And single mom, super liberal, was like, nice try. But that was it. I was hooked. These guys shooting, moving, communicating, diving, working out. They were so confident. That to me was like everything I enjoyed doing from an activity standpoint, and also like from a male role model. I was like, these guys could fuck up anyone. Like, that is it. Not from the violence standpoint, but you know what I mean. Like,
yeah.
they're good guys.
Yeah.
And it just stayed with me forever. It stayed with me. Every time I talk about what am I going to do when I grow up, it was something to do with, policing, FBI, not anymore, but FBI, like CIA, like something like along those lines, because I always was that protector growing up, protecting my mom, protecting my family. But I didn't have those skills. But watching that documentary, I was like, that's it. And then it just stayed with me, and I read all the books and watched all the movies.
Yeah. So when you graduated high school, you made the decision to go to college, and not. Was there a thought process there as to why?
Yeah. When 9/11 happened, I was a senior in high school, and I remember I wanted so badly to drop out and join. And there was actually, I went to high school with John Kim.
Oh, really?
SEAL.
Did you guys know each other well? Or?
No. We had similar friends, but opposite career paths, essentially. He went from high school into the teams, and I went to college. And I like to joke, like, well, one of us made the right decision. But I watched him go through, and I heard from friends how he was doing. And I was like, holy shit, man. So it made it more real to go in the teams. But when 9/11 happened, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And my mom was like, no, obviously you're not doing that. And kind of talked me out of it. And then a lot of people were like, go to college. So I went to college. And then while I was in college, I was like, I'm going to drop out because the war had kicked off in Iraq. And I just kept feeling like if it's not me, then who? Like, who's going to go if it's not me? I'm the protector of all my friends. But I kept getting talked out into doing something, graduate, do this, do that. And I didn't join until afterwards. So it took me a number of years to finally go, what is my path?
Where did you go to college?
I went to undergrad at Boston University.
Really?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're in Los Angeles. What was the motivator to go all the way across the country to Boston?
It had been the best school I got into from like a ranking standpoint, but once again, it was like a mom decision. I was like, I'd got into these schools and was kind of set on them. And when I got into BU, my mom was like, that's where you're going. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But it showed you how influential she was in my life, was that how influential she is in my life. She's alive. That she would tell me to do these things and I would just listen and listen. In hindsight, I wouldn't change it. Amazing experiences. But you always wonder, had I gone in earlier, how would it have changed?
Sure. Was there we'll call it a pivotal moment as you got into the teams, became a man, and we'll go back from there, but I'm just curious in you talking about your mom playing such a significant role in your decision-making process, where that shifted, where, not that you don't listen to her, but where now it's like, I'll take that into account, but I'm my own man. Like, was there a defining moment where you realized that had happened?
Yeah. She had wanted me to go to law school. And so I was applying to law schools, going through all the test prep, taking the LSATs and applying. And it was in that process where I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm a slow reader. I don't like reading. The job is all reading. And who am I doing this for? And so I did the legwork, did the applications, and had been accepted to a couple, lower ranking schools. And I was like, fuck this, like, live your life, man, like, get some nuts and go. And so I went to the recruiter and I enlisted, and they're like, oh, you should go officer. I was like, well, I just want to be a SEAL, so what's the fastest way to do that? And they were like, well, don't be an officer then. So I enlisted, and then I told my mom one night at dinner, I was like, I got into this law school, and she was like so happy and like, congratulations. And I said, but I enlisted in the Navy. And she broke down crying, and it was hysterical, I thought, but yeah, it was good.
All right, so you graduated obviously did you go to Boston the whole time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What was your degree in?
I studied international relations. I was a Division I rower for a few years.
Really?
Yeah.
That's no joke.
I'd never rowed before, but I think I was missing that team dynamic from my hockey years.
Yeah.
And so when we were being recruited as freshmen, I was like, yeah, be on a team, cool, let's do it.
All right, folks, sleep is one of the most important things for a healthy lifestyle and, just generally speaking for overall health and well-being. I started working with Beam here in the last couple of months, and I got to tell you, the natural sleep cycle that it helps enable is absolutely noticeable, and it's fantastic. I can't recommend this product enough. If you're having trouble sleeping or staying asleep, if you wake up feeling groggy and just hard to be able to focus the next day, that foundation of mental and physical health is key. So Beam's Dream Powder, it's a science-backed hot cocoa for sleep, and it's helped me tremendously with being able to fall asleep and actually stay asleep, waking up feeling rested and not groggy the next day. So today, my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, which is the science-backed hot cocoa for sleep with no added sugar. They have delicious flavors like chocolate peanut butter and cinnamon cocoa, 15 calories, 0 grams of sugar, and that better sleep has never tasted better. Other sleep aids can cause next-day grogginess, but Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. Go to www.beam.com and use the code MICDROP, all caps, all one word, for 40% off. It's right, 40% off if you use MICDROP, all one word, all caps, 40% off. Do it. You guys know I talk about sleep a lot and recovery. Magnesium is a big part of sleep, but it's not only sleep that being deficient in magnesium can cause problems with. An estimated 75% of all adults in the United States are deficient in magnesium, and it's not just sleep. It can be digestion, it can be cognition, it can be energy, it can be recovery. Magnesium is a vital component to our body's process. And with that, I mean, a whole host of other issues can come from magnesium deficiency. It can be a root cause of anxiety, depression, insomnia, stress. All of those things combined are contributing factors to issues that a lot of people face. Ned has come out with the product Mellow, which is a magnesium product. It's a powerful daily super blend, and it contains 3 of the most bioavailable and nutrient-dense forms of chelated magnesium on Earth. 2 of the most stress-busting aminos, GABA and L-theanine, and over 70 trace minerals. Mellow is truly in a league of its own. It offers 300-plus benefits to help with better sleep and optimal health and wellness. It comes in 4 very delicious flavors. There's lemon, lavender berry, pomegranate, and naked, which is a stripped-down, flavor-free version that's great for adding to smoothies, coffee, shakes, etc. The folks at Ned have spent over 3 years developing their best-selling Mellow Magnesium Super Blend, and it's they've really gone to the ends of the earth to create one of the best magnesium products on the planet. Become the best version of yourself and get 15% off Ned products with code MicDrop, all caps, all one word. Go to helloned.com/MicDrop or enter code MicDrop at the checkout. That's helloned.com/MicDrop to get 15% off. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. All right, guys, I've talked a number of times on the show that I'm not a drinker. Like I rarely drink. However, from a ritual standpoint, like for example, my dad comes into town for Christmas, and I do like to have a glass of bourbon with my old man. The problem is that between me not drinking that much and just as I get older, coupled with the fact that I stay active, I have a very dialed in and particular morning routine. Something as simple as a glass of bourbon or a couple of them when I am not used to drinking them can really mess me up for the next day or even couple of days. I tried Z-Biotics. I'll admit I was a little skeptical, but they sent me a product to try, and this Christmas, used the product, had bourbon with the dad, no problem the next morning. I was pleasantly surprised at how well it worked. It's a phenomenal product that I can tell you, I actually used and was surprised by the results. So this isn't something for somebody who drinks all the time. It's not a product that, somebody who drinks every day after work or ties one on all the time is probably going to get use out of. It's more for the healthy adults that don't drink that much in the instances where socially they still want to be able to do that. This is your go-to product for it. I will say, if you go to zbiotics.com/MicDrop, you can get 15% off your first order if you use MicDrop, all one word, all caps, at checkout. It's backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. If you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. So give it a shot. You have nothing to lose. Again, that's www.zbiotics.com/MicDrop and use the code MicDrop, all caps, all one word, at checkout for 50% off. Great product, great company, stand behind vets, and I appreciate working with them. Give it a shot. Can I ask fastest 500 and 2,000 time?
Yeah, I think my fastest 2K was a 6:28.
Dude, that's absurd. This interview's got it. We're done.
I actually back when I was in Afghanistan, tried to recreate some of those days. I couldn't, but I was getting closer and closer. But
you could break 7, no problem.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, breaking 7 in 2,000 is kind of the benchmark.
Yeah.
I know CrossFit kind of put that out there, but in trying to do it, I get it.
Yeah.
That's no fucking slouch of a time. But 6:20 doesn't seem human almost.
It doesn't, but then you look at the guys who compare yourself to. So I was the shortest guy on my team, not anywhere near the top of the guys. And, guys who are 6'6", every time they pull, it's a 6-inch difference.
Yeah.
And they're crushing a 6:28, not even breathing hard.
Yeah.
We had Olympians on the team. It was no joke. It was a real fucking wake up call of what actual fitness is, what your cardio threshold is.
Yeah.
And so that gave me a lot of experience to then take into the teams of how you actually need to train.
Yeah. Do you remember your fastest 500 time?
500 time? I don't. I never really trained specifically for a 500 time. Yeah, I couldn't call it out off the top of my head.
I mean, I've seen, I guess similarly, like breaking 130, I think is kind of the hats off to you if you can break 130 in the 500 time. But
yeah, I could break 130. Actually, I have a hydro that a friend of mine let me borrow. And it's fun because I go online and I'm probably competing against senior citizens, but that doesn't matter.
I'm killing them
because I'm in the record boards, like top 1%, and it makes me feel good.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you were at Boston going to college, is it there where you first experienced martial arts and training, or was it before then?
I'd done like Taekwondo growing up, which no offense to there's some really good fighters who know Taekwondo, but I just laugh because most don't. But yeah, there was a I think it was Gracie Baja. There was a jiu-jitsu gym in Massachusetts, and I was like 20 years old, and I started going there. Maybe I was 19, and I just remember getting my ass handed to me for so long and going like, "What the fuck is going on? Like, what is this?" And that was like pretty early. That was like what 2002, 2003 timeframe.
Yeah.
So it was still very unknown. There were very few people doing it. But I remember the instructor who was there was like in a really thick Brazilian accent. He's like, if you train at this for the next 10 to 12 years, you will have your black belt. And I thought, who the fuck has 12 years
to fuck around?
Like, I'm in college.
Yeah.
And then here we are like 20 years later. I was like, he was right. I should have listened.
Yeah. So did you do it for a couple of years during then, or was it just kind of off and on? Or?
Yeah, it was on and off for those years. And then in the teams, it was on and off, mostly off. I did a lot of stand-up during time in the teams. And it, when I was a BUD/S instructor, I was teaching the fighting, but I was doing mostly striking. And I'll remember there was this big guy, I'll save his name because he's still active, but huge fucking dude, really good at Muay Thai, but he was also really good at jiu-jitsu.
Instructor or student?
He was a student.
Oh, okay.
Because I used to fight all the students. And that was the one loophole I had in third phase. That was really nice.
Dude, that's awesome. We didn't have that. There's got to be some fucking good stories.
Some great ones.
Yeah.
And I wrote it into the curriculum that student or instructors must be able to fight students to assess.
Dude, that's awesome.
At 50%.
Yeah.
50%. So we were just going 50%. And I just remember this guy, we're standing up, it was fine, and then he took me to the ground and he just kind of mopped the floor with me. And I thought, fuck, I need to flip how I'm training. So ever since then, mostly jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Where in San Diego did you train? At Victory or?
I trained a bit at Victory. A little bit at the arena, and then I trained a lot at City Boxing downtown because that was like right next to my house, so I'd go there more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so taking a few steps back, you graduate, you get into law school, you enlist, you go to BUD/S. I've had a number of team guys on here, so we'll kind of Reader's Digest version the BUD/S experience.
Yeah.
But any highlights, any big ticket eventful things that happened that really shaped your career during training?
No, not really. We had the last hard BUD/S class, and I encourage anyone to join who wants to try it.
What class were you in?
I went through BUD/S with 273.
Yeah.
272 and 3, and then SQT was 274.
Oh, okay. And at that point, was SO a rate, or did you have to go to a school beforehand?
It was a rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went straight to...
Yeah. BUD/S contract.
You got rolled.
I did. Right? I got rolled twice, once for pneumonia, and then once broke my ankles.
Both of them?
Yeah, like a week apart. I broke one ankle and I duct taped it because I didn't want to get rolled back.
Yeah.
And then one night we were patrolling in third phase, and I stepped into a giant fucking hole with a ruck on, and my ankle just like sheared.
Man.
So I was like crawling, and so I got rolled for that. But fortunately, it was like 2 or 3 days before we had graduated. So they gave me a forward roll instead of a back roll. And then I just waited for jump school.
Oh, wow. So you went through Hell Week with pneumonia?
No, it was right before Hell Week. I had apparently really fucked up pneumonia. Like I was coughing up blood, like it was pretty bad. And then they rolled me back, and then I had to do first phase over again.
Oh man,
that was
that's a gut check.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, like I broke down.
Yeah,
I was like, there's no way I can do this twice.
Wow. Was it the 4th or 5th week then? Do you remember?
I think it was the 4th week.
Yeah, dude, that's tough.
Kind of blurry now.
That's tough for two reasons. One, the obvious, like having to do that all over again. But I know for me, especially getting rolled not even a week before the class that I started with went to San Clemente Island, getting rolled back and having to do all of third phase all over again.
Yeah.
And not graduating with my class was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
Know? But
that's bad.
Yeah. All right. So you go to jump school at Benning, or was it
San Diego?
Okay.
The fancy
brownfield, straight to free fall.
Yeah.
And then you go through SQT. Any things happen then that?
No, it's pretty uneventful. I mean, it was eventful for me.
Yeah.
But for the stories you've heard and read about it, nothing crazy over the top.
A fairly textbook SQT experience by SEAL standards.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you graduate there, and then your first team assignment is where?
I went to Team 7 West Coast, and checked in, had a full workup, and then deployed to Iraq.
What was your expectation versus reality of checking into SEAL Team 7?
I think there were a couple expectations. One, I thought the moment I got there, we were just going to have our asses handed to us. We didn't. They were like pretty nice with us. And then, I don't know. I think my expectation was that it was going to be much worse than it was. But we had like a really nice like team unit. I think it was because the chief I had as a new guy was like old school. He'd been in a long time, and the way he ran things was kind of like a father rather than like fucking crush your nuts in, you know. And he was really good. Kept the team together quite well. So yeah, it was great. Some of my best friends were in the platoon with me, and we were supposed to go to Afghanistan, and we got the green light, bro, to grow beards, and we were all excited. And I couldn't grow a beard, so I was really excited to try. And I started getting these little pubes on my face.
Looks like fruit mold.
And said goodbye to everyone at Christmas, like, hey, love you, good luck in Afghanistan. Everyone was crying, and then it was like the next week we got, shave your faces, we're going to Iraq. I was like, oh, okay. Fuck.
What year is this?
We left in 2011.
Okay.
It's like March of 2011.
What? So from checking in until you're actually deployed is what, a year and a half?
Yeah, it was surprisingly long. I mean, it depends when you get to the team. Obviously, some guys deploy right away, but I had been in the Navy since January of 2008.
Yeah.
And it was January of 2011, and I was just being told where I'm going.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild.
Like, you want to talk about time and investment into a fighting force?
Yeah. I mean, I'm same here. So I joined in 96 and didn't deploy until 99.
Holy shit, yeah. But yeah, same.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. I mean, of course, back then that was, we did an ARG Alpha, so we were on a ship. So we had an 18-month workup, and then like 5 months of fleet exercises on a bunch of different ships before we deployed. So it was like a 22-month workup, and then deployed. It was kind of, I mean, I say brutal. It was good. I mean, especially for a first experience, I think it was great.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that second, third, fourth, but and I think, just with what we do and what's expected of us, I think it's better to have longer workups and more training. But did you have a specialty? What was your job in your platoon?
As a new guy, I was fortunate to go to the shittiest schools
Hazmat.
in the Navy. No, worse than that. I went to a 9-week advanced combat swimmer course.
Really?
Yeah, so just when you think you're done diving, I went to 9 weeks of diving twice a day, exhaustion dives, almost 7 days a week. There were like 1 or 2 days off here and there.
In Key West, or where the fuck was that at?
San Diego.
Really?
Yeah, dark, murky, cold water.
And who, was it ran by like Trade Ed or what?
It was ran by Trade Ed. There was some like reserve senior chief who was running it, and, you know, good on him. He had like a good heart, but the dive profiles we were doing were just like very much the 80s, and I shouldn't even say the 80s, just old tactics.
Yeah.
Tactics where you're like, why wouldn't somebody just hit a sonar and kill us all?
Yeah. Was it a guy named Beausoleil? Was he running the?
No, he was out of JTAC when I went through JTAC.
Okay. Because he ran a lot of our dive stuff, and similarly, like back then, we still had more of a maritime presence because this, you know, my first platoon in deployment was pre 9/11, so there was still a really heavy 1 foot in the water. We did a lot of fucking VBSS, a lot of diving, a lot of over the beach, a lot of fucking. I mean, we did hydro, everything.
Yeah.
Half our fucking workup was in the water, and you know, so we, like every platoon at that time, were doing 6-7 week dive blocks of training, 2-a-days, you know, whatever. And Randy Beausoleil was the only guy in the SEAL teams that had a real world dive mission in Panama. And so, you know, he comes in fucking peacock feathers straight up in the air, you know, Bronze Star, which at that time nobody fucking had, you know. And so everybody's like, holy shit, like this guy's fucking done it, you know. So we ate it up, you know, and are doing these crazy fucking dives, you know, but it sounds like it was the same thing.
Yeah, it was the same thing, except they just sent all the new guys there. And then there were like 2 1-platooners who were just disgruntled and pissed. Yeah. Actually, funny story, Randy, first time I ever saw him was out at JTAC, and I was making calls and he was listening in. And then I see him, I walk up to him, and I'm like, I'm kind of starstruck because I'd seen him on all the TV shows. And I was like, hey, and he shakes my hand. He's like, man, you suck at this. I was like, oh, thank you. Great to meet you.
Yeah. That's fucking great. Yeah, he's a cool dude. He's a character for sure. But
so the calls I had were just it was diving, and it was like kind of like bullshit stuff, more the admin type calls. But then when I deployed, I basically got I got put on essentially an ASO role. So I was just working intelligence. Which was really neat because it was like on the job training rather than schoolhouse.
Yeah.
And then when I came back, I actually went schoolhouse on that. And the difference was night and day, like schoolhouse versus real world. So I felt very fortunate to have real world then schoolhouse, because then I could kind of pick and choose what to buy into.
Yeah. Now, I know the ASO topic in general is pretty sensitive. For what you can share, can you talk at all about any of the real world stuff?
Yeah. So we were basically getting intelligence from the people in Iraq, and we were having indigenous personnel run around town and run errands for us. And in running those errands, they would then give us information that they found.
Unbeknownst to them, or did they?
Sometimes both.
Yeah.
Sometimes we would tell them what they're looking for, and sometimes we would just ask them to report. Like I'd tell a guy to go to a coffee shop and then go to like, for what's a better word? Not a computer station, but
like an internet cafe?
Yeah, like an internet cafe. Like, go buy this, go talk to this guy, ask him for a business card. And just throughout their day, they weren't really like knowing exactly what they were doing, but they knew that they were doing something to better their country. And they were it was a great team. They lived with us. I lived with them. And it was like me, a CAG dude, and a bunch of Indige, like local Iraqis.
All living in like a house out in town?
Living on the base in a little small compound that nobody else could access unless we let them on. And it was pretty cool to be a new guy, and then like commanding officers like hey, we need to see something. And I'm like, all right, hold up, sir. I had a lot of autonomy, and I was doing really cool things. Like I would get a call from the CIA saying, hey, we've got a guy at a place. Here's, he's logged into this account, and you can go get him. I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, well, go do what you do, get him. And I found out very, very soon that like they didn't know what we could do, and we, quite frankly, we didn't know what they could do. I didn't know where they were getting this info from. I just can't really say, but I didn't know at the time like how much they could access. And so when they would say, hey, there's a guy here, I'm like, how the fuck do they know that? And then they didn't know like what go get them means.
Yeah.
And so they would say, here's a guy at this place. And what I could do is I could send out a local to basically follow this dude all day, find out where he lives, where he sleeps. And then at night, we would actually go to his house and get him.
Oh, shit.
And so as a new guy, being able to go up to my platoon chief and even the commanding officer and be like, hey, here's an intel package. There's a guy at this place. He's doing this shit. Let's go get him. And they're like, great job. And I'd be like,
new guy.
Yay. And, sometimes they'd be like, come with us. And sometimes they'd be like, stay home.
Yeah.
But either way, it was really cool. I felt like I was doing actual work that I had signed up for.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's like cloak and dagger, secret squirrel kind of shit that you see in the brochure that you think you're going to be doing more of than I think we typically actually do. But
yeah.
On any of the, two questions. Were any of the guys that you went and got big name guys that were huge grabs?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Like locally, they're all big names, right? It's the guy who's fucking killing Americans doing this. Does it make it to the press? No.
Yeah. I mean,
nothing like that.
When we first went into Iraq, they had the deck of cards guys. They weren't big names like that, but they were obviously influential guys in that region that were killing Americans.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what it was. I think we had taken over the strike force. Delta had been there before us. They left all their assets, and we got to be the gun guys. And that was really cool. Plus, they left a bunch of like big screen TVs and cool shit that like nobody would ever get normally. So we were very fortunate. Every night we had multiple aircraft overhead, like 3 to 10 aircraft on station. All of the IR spotting, trackers, any of the top secret stuff for finding people, right? Whether electronically, through humans. We had all that in the day working for us, and then at night you could just like turnkey go and get them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so my portion of it was the human side.
Yeah. When you deployed, so your platoon goes, did you go with them and then break off? Like, were they on the same base and you were just in this little compound nearby? Like, did you still have contact with them? Or
yeah.
How did that kind of schedule work?
I was right next door. How it actually started was we had an older guy who was working it, and then he had gotten moved to Afghanistan. And then they're like, who's going to do this? And all the older guys are like, what, intel work? Fuck that. So I volunteered because I was like, well, it's better than sitting on my ass in the day and then like hoping, to work at night. Although we were working every night, I personally wasn't working every night. Like new guys were getting alternated. So yeah, I volunteered, and it was probably the smartest decision I made because I got to work so much more. I was now bringing work to the team as opposed to like, what do you have for me?
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be hugely rewarding as a new guy, at any point, but especially as a new guy to have that kind of influence over your platoon's actions, I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah. And it gave me a warm and fuzzy about like the capabilities of our country.
Yeah.
Like when there's a bad dude, we're going to fucking find him.
Yeah.
And if we want him dead, he's going to die. And that, I was like, oh yeah. And this is why. This is how easy it is to find somebody. This is how easy it is to kill them if you want them dead.
Yeah. Let's just hope we're never those guys.
Yeah. Gotta watch what I say.
Yeah, no shit. I want to take a second to talk about something near and dear to my heart, and that is a staunch supporter of this podcast, which is Bub's Naturals. The hat sitting in front of me here on our coffee table here in the studio belonged to Glenn Doherty. His nickname was Bub. I did 2 platoons with him, and his childhood best friend and another colleague of theirs, Sean is the best friend, TJ is their colleague, started Bub's Naturals, which is a collagen and MCT oil company in Bub's or Glenn's honor. And, for me, it's an absolute honor to be sponsored by and working with a company that, was started in the honor of one of my closest friends and a guy that I went to war with. And, the Bub's brand is not only super quality, collagen powder as well as MCT oil powder, but they also give back to the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. They donate proceeds from their product sales to the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation, which, to me just furthers, the mission set on Veterans Day. They give 100% back. So I do believe it's the best collagen on the planet. I like to mix it in with morning coffee. The MCT oil powder, the same thing. Mixes in very easy. It tastes great, and it just kind of adds everything that you want to start your day off from a brain health standpoint, from joint support, gut support. MCT oil and collagen are 2 components, especially as we age, that are integral components to health. And so to be able to work with Bub's Naturals and be able to work with them and sponsor a product that number 1 is a high quality product, and number 2 is so near and dear to to my heart and to the Mic Drop podcast for who it was started for and what it stands for. It's just it's an amazing place to be. So it is Whole30 approved. It's sports certified, so you're not going to run into any problems with that. And I will say that right now they're offering 20% 20% off if you go to bubsnaturals.com and use the Mic Drop code. So I really highly encourage you to try it out. Incorporate it into your day-to-day for joint health, for brain health, for cognition, for gut health, and to support an amazing organization that does a lot of things in Glenn Bub's honor. So go to bubsnaturals.com. Mic Drop is the code, 20% off. Were there any operations for intel packages that you presented the platoon that went horribly wrong?
There were a number of dry holes. I don't know if it was like necessarily my dry hole of the intel, but just the collection of intel would lead you to believe this. And there were nights where we'd clear like 15 homes.
Wow.
You'd clear the house and they'd be like, oh, he lives next door. You clear the house. Oh, he lives next door. And then you find out everyone's just like playing a game and the guy's not even in the area.
Yeah. They're just fucking with their neighbors.
Yeah. I remember there was one night where we were going door to door to door to door, and you're starting to get spread thin, and somebody in one of the houses yelled avalanche, right? Get the fuck out of the house. The bomb's going to go off. But when you're in 10 different houses and somebody yells avalanche, you can't go like, oh, which house? So you just see the entire block of like team guys like run out of the houses, like jumping out like, what the fuck? And then we're like, wait, what house was that?
Yeah.
And then it turned out it was like a piece of wiring that somebody was like, didn't know. It was like a TV remote or something.
Jeez. Did you have any operations that you went on where they were super active from a tick or combat standpoint? Like,
no, that entire deployment was like fairly quiet. We were coming in at night, 3 a.m. I don't know if these guys just like didn't know we were tracking them or what, or maybe we were just that good. I doubt that. I think just the expectation was that they were safe. Everything we were tracking was, it seemed like we would open a door and the door would be unlocked, or we'd beat down the door and we were just waking them up.
Yeah.
But there were many a night where they were sleeping in their beds and we catch them, put our hands on their mouths, or pull them like right out in their jammies. They shit their pants, and I felt very much like the predator, like our team was the predator and they were the prey. It didn't feel at all like we're going into some like hot shit. Like you always felt that way going into it, like we're going to get into some shit. But all the missions were like, I don't want to say too easy, but it felt very much like we're dominating.
Yeah. Like just catching them totally off guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel super lucky about that because I hear all these other stories where guys like, they're going in and they're just getting shot off the roofs and all that. And I'm like, oh, like we didn't have that.
Yeah. Now at that same time, your platoon, they were going out on raids and assaults that were outside of the packages that you were putting together, though, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
But you didn't get to go on those?
No, I did.
Oh, okay.
I would like burn the candle at both ends. So if there was like a mission, I knew that was at night, I would like try to nap beforehand and do both. Because, man, I'm there to work.
Yeah.
And that's the fun part. The whole reason you do intel is not for intel. It's to fucking go out and capture, kill people. So that's what I did. To the best of my ability, it was try to like do as much work as possible.
Any good outside the wire operations on the platoon side?
I think it was just just capturing people. I don't even want to say it was good work, and here's why. Like this is gonna sound kind of depressing, but every fucking guy we went in and captured, like the next day or within the next week, they'd let him go.
Oh, really?
It was like you would capture a guy, and then some mornings we would release him, and he was the guy. He was the guy.
Did you guys ever ask what the fuck?
All the time.
What was was there ever an answer?
No, it was just
don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's some higher up thing, and it was so defeating to know like these guys were killing Americans or facilitating this or making bombs or doing something bad, and then you risk your life every day, and like what happens?
Yeah. So at this point, you're in your late 20s.
Late 20s, yeah.
So I mean, I'm curious. Like I was pretty young, and looking back on it, like just my perspective of the world was very naive and different than it is now. The older I get, the more, at least what it seems like behind the curtain, I feel like I can see a little bit. But I'm curious, like in that position, were any of the other platoon members, whether they're older, more experienced or not, but that were just like, at what point do we say, hey, what the fuck? Like, I mean, is there a point like where, like, let's say you guys find somebody that 100% has blood on his hands. Maybe it's even one of our guys, like somebody you guys know, or even, and they're just like, whatever. Like, is there a point where you guys would be like, no? Like where you'd almost mutiny, like, no, we're not fucking letting him go. This is bullshit. Or make a big enough stink, like demand answers more than just don't worry about it.
That's a great question because my first deployment, no way. I'd get pissed, but who the fuck am I? Like, I'm so low on the totem pole, I don't even ask questions. I'd ask questions, but I'm not a decision maker. But I'd see the leadership would be fed up too. But you're also not privy to the big picture, right? So if the big picture is, we're drawing down, then my question is, why the fuck are we there to begin with? If we're just going on missions to keep busy.
Yeah, I mean, you're putting guys' lives in danger
stop
for no
going
reason.
on missions. And that was my Afghanistan deployment in a nutshell, was constantly asking and constantly wondering why we're either sitting on a base or going out on a mission that doesn't make sense, or they're not allowing us to like get work done.
Yeah.
Like the military is a hammer and we fucking smash really well. But if the intent is not to smash, then pull them out.
Yeah.
Get the military the fuck out of any place you don't need to smash. It's an absolute waste of resources. It's a waste of amazing human beings. And that's my hindsight. My 2020 is I look back and I go, what the fuck were we even doing there?
Yeah.
The government's intent was to get out early, and they pause. And so you're just waiting around, guys are getting killed, and they're not even able to like affect change.
Yeah. So you had that thought in Iraq, but it was your first go around and you're like, well, who the fuck am I? Were any of the other platoon mates more rowdy about it?
No, I mean, guys are, team guys are disgruntled.
Yeah,
They're
find something to bitch about.
give them a bag of golds. I'll tell you how heavy it is. No, I think it was all the same. It was just like, what the fuck are we doing there? And then a lot of the guys had gone over to Afghanistan from there to help. There was a pretty good fight going on in Afghanistan in 2011, and they had basically extended that deployment without telling the guys how long it was going to be. They just kept it extending, and that deployment for most of them ended up being 11 to 12 months, starting with 6 months. I call it lucked out or didn't luck out. I think it was lucked out because my daughter was born at like the 7 or 8 month mark, so I went home. And most of my guys had the option, like, do you want to go to Afghanistan? Most of them took it, and they went to Afghanistan from there. So they were there for
Better part of a year.
But only knowing one more month.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot out of guys.
Yeah. The Iraq deployment, you were there with Eddie Gallagher, right?
No, Afghanistan.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get into that in a second, I guess. You went back for your daughter's birth. You didn't come back, or you didn't go back on deployment. You stayed home.
This was like a really awesome time. My daughter was born, and my chief was like, hey, it sounds like we're just going to be here another month. Just stay home. It ended up every month he would say that. Sounds like we're just another month. So I had 4.5 months
of paternity leave
where like nobody from the command called me.
Yeah.
And I just remember like every day I'd wake up and be like, nobody's called. And there was a point where I thought, maybe nobody calls.
Yeah.
Maybe nobody ever calls. And I just serve out like years of just like sitting on my couch.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
Man. That's cool to have gotten to experience that. I mean, that's a rarity, so.
Yeah. It was great because when I came home, I went from like tracking down people all day long and then going to their homes and pulling them out of their fucking beds. Like that was the deployment in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And I hop on a flight to Kuwait and then a commercial air the next day from Kuwait back to the States. And I land in San Diego, and now I'm back in society.
Yeah. 3 days later, you're wiping ass.
And yeah. And so I was like, what is going on? Like I'm driving like 30 miles an hour on the highway because like I'm used to base rules. Everywhere I look is like the enemy. I'm just staring at people's hands all day thinking like they're coming to attack. So that 4 months was actually kind of nice because even though I was tripping about having a baby, it gave me a little bit of that decompression.
Yeah. Before we get into your platoon coming home and then going to Afghanistan, in all of those raids that you did, were there ever instances where you guys would go into houses and something was way off? Like, and by off, I mean like what you found was super alarming, or even weird.
I guess my answer would be no. I can't think of anything that was super alarming besides like cultural weird stuff.
What's the weirdest?
I trying to think. I don't really have an example. Let me think on an example. 'Cause
Yeah.
I can't think of like super weird stuff besides like going into people's homes and there's like, sex toys and things that are like pretty much normal in society. But, I think like on the ISR cameras and things like that, you would see a lot of like the dude on dude action like behind the curtains, which there's nothing wrong with that, but in that culture it's really frowned upon, and it's like they lie about it, so it is kind of funny to watch that. But yeah, there was nothing, no example I can think of. Just every time you'd go into a house, it was a different puzzle. The people were not happy to see you. Women were fucking screaming, holding their kids. You couldn't go near the women because then that would make the men want to come fight you. So you had to just corral them into a corner. The threats of IEDs So when you're searching, you're like afraid to lift anything up because you don't want, like, if I lift this rug, is it going to blow? We had, I guess we had cleared a house one time, and this is going to be a dog story. That's kind of cool. We had this dog named Mikey, and his army handler was with us, and we'd cleared the house and everything was fine, but the guy was supposed to be like have weapons or cachet or some shit on target, and everything seemed normal. And so we're in the back of the house, and there was like a Chevy Suburban, and we were all kind of hanging out. One guy was like sitting on the bumper, and I'm kind of like helmet off, hanging out by it when we're waiting for extract. And the dog Mikey comes over, and he just like sits next to the car, and we're kind of like playing with him. And the dog handler comes out, I forget his name, and he's like, did you guys tell Mikey to sit? And we're like, no, man, we're like just hanging out with the dog. He's like, why is he sitting? Have you guys checked this Suburban? And then sure enough, there was like a whole bunch of like it was like a cache inside the Suburban, like weapons, explosive stuff like that. Not rigged to blow, but like a whole cache.
Yeah.
Essentially what we were looking for was in this truck, and the dog fucking told us.
Dude, that's awesome.
But we're not listening to the dog. We're just like petting Mikey. Yeah.
That's good stuff. Did he get any bites on that deployment?
No, but he almost ran into a fan blade one time. We were getting off the helicopter, and he got spooked by something and just took off running. And
man,
his handler jumped and like grabbed the leash, and that
would be fucking horrible.
Horrible for like everyone involved. But it was really cool. That was my first experience with a working dog.
Yeah, it was an Army handler.
Yeah.
From a soft unit or
no?
Really?
No. But he was really good, and the dog was fucking awesome, man. Like it was such an asset to the team.
Yeah. No, they're huge force multipliers. They're underappreciated oftentimes, I think. But all right, so you're home for 4 months, hanging out. Baby's born. Platoon comes back. You do another workup before you go to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Same kind of workup.
Same workup. I finally got to go to like specialty schools, so I went to Intel, ASO school. I went to comms. I made myself learn comms. I was so bad with the fucking radios. JTAC, and then actually later on I went to Breacher, but so I went to comms, JTAC, and Intel. So finally got formal training in what I'd already been doing, which was really, really cool.
Yeah. And that whole workup, did you know that you were going to Afghanistan?
Pretty much. Yeah. We had like guessed, and we had talked about it a lot, but there's always that competition of like only the best platoons get the best deployments, and we had done really well, so a couple of us got to go there. Yeah.
And was there any type of heads up as to where you were going, why you were going, kind of the more 30,000 foot view, like what you were trying to accomplish while there?
Yeah, the 30,000 foot rule was, I forget the name they gave it. It was some bullshit fucking general came up with a name. But it was to assess the current situation of the bases. As we were drawing down bases, American forces would leave a base, hand it over to the locals, and then our job was to go to these bases and meet with them, talk with them, and find out like how things are going. And then meet with the locals and get the feel of the local population. And it was such a dumb mission. It was, I don't even want to say it was vital. It was just it was a buying time mission. Mm-hmm. But in it, anytime you leave the wire in Afghanistan, it's a fucking life or death move. And so we did get into a little bit of fun. But overall, as I was talking about earlier, it's like, why are you there to begin with?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At some point, it's like you're justifying this to your family, like, well, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, so Afghanistan, you guys do your workup, you go back. Sounds like, there was a pretty unclear mission as to really why you were there, or there was some questioning going on, but you guys still went out and did stuff and got into it a little bit. Tell us about the Afghanistan deployment.
It was we had a clear mission, but what was unclear was what we were allowed to do to get that mission done. Because every time we would try to do something, we would get shut down. For an example, I was running the intel of my platoon, And it was very intel heavy because you couldn't do anything without like, triple source verified, like this is going on and it's going to happen. And I remember on multiple occasions, but this one occasion in particular, I had gotten multiple intelligence sources saying when and where a rocket attack was going to take place. We knew who was going to do it, and we knew where they were going to do it and when they were going to do it. And it was verified. And that's the one thing in intelligence. If it's verified by multiple sources and it's imminent threat on U.S. Forces or friendly forces, that's actionable. That's always the way it's been. Imminent and verified. And I presented as best as I could the information to the head shit at the time. And I'm going to spare these guys the embarrassment of calling them out.
I wouldn't.
But fuck these guys. They were it was a CEO and Master Chief of a team at the time, and if they're watching, they probably know who they are. And they looked and they were like, "No, we're going to stand down on this." And I'm paraphrasing what they said, but they wouldn't let us action it. And I remember losing my fucking shit. And the first time they did that, the night it was supposed to happen, we're laying in bed and you hear rockets go off and blast on the base. And nobody was hurt, thankfully, but it happened. It happened. And I'm like, these fucking people are the reason why guys get killed on base, because they're trying to make some extra star on their shoulder, but they don't give a shit about actually making change. It's like keeping the peace. So fast forward a few months later, we go to, or we're in the same situation. Intelligence, these guys are coming to do rocket attacks, and we get turned down again. And now it's like, come on, guys. Not only was it verified, but it was right last time.
These are team guy leaders?
These are team guy leaders. And like very, very senior leaders, so obviously politics plays in. I was never privy to the politics, so that's a little ignorance on my part to pretend that I know everything. But one thing I do know is the only reason you're there is to work and keep guys alive. So the rocket attacks were coming at a certain time, and I'll just say for the podcast, I took it upon myself, and I went to a local force that I had a bit of control over, and I handed them money to take care of the situation.
Oh, shit.
And they came back with photograph evidence of what happened. I took the camera, I threw it in a burn pit, and I know I did the right thing. Trying to think what else I can say on that. Basically...
You say how much you gave them?
Lives are very cheap in Afghanistan. Yeah. It was under $500 if I remember right. It was like a few $100. And these guys were down as fuck. I mean, they would... they would offer to kill people for like nothing all the time, and I'd be like, chill, man. Like, these guys didn't do anything wrong. But they said there's a rocket attack coming, and here are the guys who are doing it. This is the place they were doing it. And it, I tried to like make sure that it wasn't some like interpersonal conflict where they're just trying to like wipe out somebody. And it was legit, man. And so I gave them cash, and they went out, took care of the situation, came back, and showed me pics.
Do other guys in your platoon know that?
Probably.
The leadership doesn't know that.
No,
or do they?
I kept it very private because I didn't want anyone to have responsibility for it besides me. But you know what? Fuck it. That's why we're there. We're there to get shit done. And the military, like I said, is a hammer. And if you don't want things getting smashed, get us out.
Yeah.
Get us out.
To me, the only and one downside I would say to that is that they probably thought, see, that's why we didn't send anybody out there, because nothing happened. It's like, well, it didn't happen because we fucking made it not happen.
I never thought about that, but
They probably think, yeah, see, we're right half the time.
That's
arrogant fuck.
It's fucking guys, they get credit for it.
Yeah. So was that a normal 6-month deployment?
It was about 7 months, and I would say it was normal. We had a few like interesting situations happen. Eddie was on that deployment with me. And I just want to say Eddie's a good friend of mine. Anyone who was criticizing him for all that shit that was going on, those guys, they're either lying or they're fucking cowards, because Eddie is the guy I want behind me at all times.
Yeah.
Or in front of me, man. That guy's an animal, great dude, out for the boys. He's like he embodies exactly who you want at the tip of the spear, fighting the enemies.
I mean, from the people that I know well enough to trust their opinion, I've heard nothing but the same. And just, I've been around him a few times, and I've never gotten anything but that vibe-wise from him,
Yeah.
It just seems like a rock-solid fucking good dude that's a pipe hitter that you'd want fucking doing the things that our country needs some guys to be able to do,
Yeah.
So obviously that deployment was before all that shit happened with him.
Yeah, it was before all that. In fact, some of the guys who had I don't know if it's brought accusations or just talk shit, or I wasn't privy to the whole court case thing, but some of those guys were in our platoon. They were new guys. And it's just funny, man. When I heard it from the outside, I was an instructor, and it's like, guy who was not meat-eating tough go-getter is complaining about meat-eating tough go-getter being too aggressive.
Yeah.
And from a high level, like I said, I wasn't privy to every detail, but from a high level, I was like, oh, of course.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. Soft people complaining that these hard people are being too hard. And it's like, dude, this is war.
Yeah.
What are you even doing here?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it sounds like being insecure that a dude's making you look bad.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. But I am curious. So you were an instructor when all that was going on. Was that a polarizing issue within the community, being on active duty? Was it something you guys talked about? Was it something that the head shed was like, hey, fucking, I don't want to hear anybody even talking about it? Or what was the vibe like?
If I remember right, it was like the head shed, top levels of the military were keeping everything hush hush. And it was polarizing to them because they were everyone wanted to banish him and just make that dark cloud go away. And I was like, what? We're a brotherhood and you're pushing a guy out for doing his job. And, but in the inner circles of the E-Dogs, the guys who were actually on the ground, no way, man.
Everybody was pretty supportive of him.
Yeah. And I preached it all the time. I as a BUD/S instructor, I always preached to the students, it's about the boys, man. You may have to lie to your family. You may have to lie to people around you, for what you're actually doing, but you never lie to a teammate. You never lie to your platoon, your teammates, because they're the guys you go to war with. They're the guys who have your back. And if you don't have trust in those situations, those life and death situations, you have nothing. You have no team. Yeah. And the most functioning teams are the guys who keep it close knit. And all these other teams that were dysfunctional or get sent home, they weren't driving. There was no trust.
Yeah. That whole thing is such a black eye to the community. I think, looking at it from having been out for a while now, it seems like a shift. Is it once from a culture standpoint, you have a community with enough guys that are willing to do that to one of their own. To me, that's a depressing shift in the way that the community conducts itself.
Yeah.
I
heard a podcast with Tim Kennedy, and I've never met him in person. Seems like awesome dude. He had said something the only thing that matters in the military is the lethality of the force. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but the lethality of the force, and anything you do to the military to change it should only make it more lethal. Mm-hmm. And everything else is irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
It's the best statement. If you're trying to bring woke into the military, if you're trying to inclusion, diversity, if you're trying to take down a guy who's hardcore out to kill bad guys and change it to make things right, or to kowtow to a population, I mean, that's the wrong call.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I would say the flexibility that the military has, unlike, say, a business, where your bottom line, and if it's big enough, answering to shareholders that make the decisions of what a company does or doesn't do based on what the numbers look like. You don't have to worry about that in the military. To me, you have the I would say the ease of being able to look at it very, very singularly from an issue standpoint of asking one simple question. Does this make us a better warfighting force?
Yeah.
Yes, do it. No, you don't do it. Like, it's that simple, you know? And I mean, to me, like, they should take pleasure in being able to reduce it to one simple question that way and stop fucking around with it. It boggles my mind the shit that the military's doing nowadays. I mean, it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
if the media has questions, like, just stick your finger up. Tell
Yeah.
them to fuck off. Like,
Yeah, I don't know why that's so hard.
why is it? I can do that with my own business.
Yeah.
If somebody's got a comment that I don't like, I'm like, piss off.
Yeah.
Why can't the military do that?
Yeah. I mean, you see it with, especially now, the administration with like John Kirby and Lloyd Austin, like the SecDef and the mouthpieces for the entire establishment as it relates to the Department of Defense. The shit that they say drives me crazy. You know, like when this morning, as an example, we're not trying to escalate and start a war with Iran. Like, why would you ever say that?
Yeah.
Like, even if that's your goal, why the fuck would you actually say that? I mean, to me, it's fucking baffling, the shit that comes out of their mouths of, you know, like, oh yeah, we're going to respond. And like, since we're on the subject, like, I'm curious to get your take of seeing our troops being attacked over and over and over and us doing fuck all about it. And I, you know, agree with your earlier statement of then get, like, if they're not doing things there and you're not going to fucking respond in kind 10x, get them the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Like, why are they sitting over there like sitting ducks getting fucking bombarded by drone attacks and we don't do shit about it and don't pull them out? And then you stand up there saying, well, we don't want a war with Iran, but we're going to do everything we can to protect these guys. The fuck you are. What's your take on all of what's going on now?
Yeah, it's like Tonkin Gulf. They're sitting a ship off the coast. Like, don't shoot at us. They keep these bases there, and these guys are just getting attacked, and the response is nothing. Or, oh, we're gonna rocket some dirt farmers in Yemen.
Yeah. Knowing
damn well those dirt farmers aren't the fucking guys building drones, aren't the guys sending drones.
Yeah.
My response is obviously going to be more aggressive than the general population. I don't care. That's my fucking lens, and that's my job, or was my job. I respond like Israel responds. You fuck with us, and we smash everyone you know until you submit. That's it. And it's not to say to be cruel. It's don't fuck with us. That's the response. I don't ever want to kill women and children, civilians. Absolutely not. We live by a code. We live by rules. But when somebody's breaking those rules, somebody's not playing by the rules, you have to respond so they never do it again.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, when they hit the towers 9/11, we went to war for 20 years, you know?
Yeah.
That was the response. And then we get all upset because Israel decides, it's inhumane what they're doing. It's like, no, you just killed like 1,500 of their people, more 1,500 of their people in an ambush on women and children, civilians, babies. And now you're upset with their response to it? Well, you just killed 3 of our U.S. citizens, our soldiers. If we don't absolutely demolish the people who did this and you know, the groups who did this, then we're just saying keep doing it.
Yeah. So I guess my number one question for you is, let's say you're the president or Secretary of Defense, you're making recommendations, whatever, it's your call. What would your military response be, and would you continue to keep troops where they're at?
I don't have full battlefield picture, and I don't have I'm not privy to the info that they do, so I don't want to make like a super ignorant statement. Knowing what I do know, I would respond severely in reaction. I would, how do I phrase this? Absolutely, we know where it came from, and I would rocket the shit out of that place. But that's not it. That's not the only response. Like, keeping bases there, keeping people there in these places, is it necessary? And if the answer is yes, I keep the people there. But if we're not doing anything while we're there, if we're not responding, we're just like eating lead, cannon fodder. that doesn't seem like the right decision to me. It feels like there's a more efficient way of doing it, whether that's having a base and then when people attack it, you attack the fuck back, or you don't have the base there at all. I don't have that information. I feel like kind of an idiot if I'm going to respond on it.
Yeah.
Because there's people who are there right now like, listen to this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But I do know that the administration that's we've had for the past few years, whether you like them or not, the military responses they have are not strong, and they don't send the message that we are strong. They send a message that we're fair and we're accepting of everyone. Man, you've got like the Russian army and the Chinese army. These guys are trying to kill. These guys are trying to fucking conquer the world. We're still in that old doctrine of like win the hearts and minds. You can't do that with a gun. It's insane.
Yeah. I wish that somebody would ask John Kirby to explain the justification for having as many troops that we do where they're at. And I'm sure he'd give some sort of like, well, it's confident, like we can't tell you why, but you can give some kind of answer without giving away the playbook as to, because to me, like, the administration owes the American people an explanation, and nobody's asking them that, at least not that I've seen. I don't watch every press conference, but they just, everybody that's behind a podium on behalf of this administration when talking about Department of Defense issues and foreign policy, to me, seems fucking spineless. They seem like just spineless jellyfish that are just completely full of shit. Drives me nuts.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get into just kind of wrapping up the Afghanistan deployment, actually, let's do that first. So Afghanistan, you guys did do some things. You got into a little bit of fucking trouble there. Can you tell us about some of those?
Excuse me. It was like little things here and there, a little skirmish. There was a mission where we'd gone to one of these outposts to assess, for lack of a better word, and we went into this compound, and it was the base, and it had become like a police compound now, and I was the intel guy, and my OIC, my officer, and then a couple other gunners, like machine gunners, had come into the compound with me. And we were going to spend the overnight there. It was supposed to be like 2 or 3 days. And then we had the rest of our teams up in the hills, like Overwatch. So like Eddie, a few of the snipers were in different positions, keeping an eye on us. While we were there, and all day long was just meetings. And I'm just like meeting with guys and trying to like get information from them and like hear their stories and see how the bases are running. And that's all it was. It was fairly straightforward. And then while we were like in the middle of it one day, some dudes had come down, like they were like, I don't know, like a mile away. And they'd come down a road in our direction. They had AKs, and the C-130 overhead had called them out, and our snipers took shots and dropped them. And it was cool. It was like a mile away, like very, very impressive shots. And
what platform were they using?
I think they were 300 Win Mags. I wasn't a sniper at the time. Still not a sniper, but I like to hunt.
Yeah.
I think there were 300 Win Mags, but very impressive shots, because I remember I was listening in on the radio, and pilots who never lose their cool were like, oh, yeah, right on, man. Like, they were stoked. So I knew, I was like, yep, that's cool. And then it all kind of calmed down for a little bit, and while these meetings are going on, and we're in a police compound, all of a sudden a vehicle comes in, and we had seen that the 2 guys who had been shot, one of them was dragged into a building, and the Taliban upside-down flag, the upside-down flag, which meant they were like Taliban supporters, they had taken one body, and then this other guy, I guess, they put him in a car, and they drove him to our compound. And they come in, and they're like, you shot a cop. And now our sniper shot these guys, but it's me, and now like I'm and my OIC and a few other guys, we're like the representatives of this death. He was still alive, and he was in real bad shape. He took a 300 Win Mag to like sub belly button, above dick, like groin shot. And he had been bleeding out for a while. I don't know how he was still alive. It'd been like an hour. And they packed his wound, but they're fucking screaming at us, and like they've got their guns on him, and they're like yelling, and we're just like trying to keep the peace because everything is like, are we going to get into a gunfight in this police alley? And so we start working on him. We had a corpsman with us, a Navy corpsman, and so I'm helping him out, and he's kind of like telling me what to do, and we're running around the base trying to get like a respirator and things like that. The problem was every time we would pump the guy, like, let me back up. He was awake, and then he would like die. His heart would stop and everything. So we'd start chest compressions, and then he would live. He'd like wake up and be like, breathing again. And it went on for like maybe an hour total time. But every time you'd pump his chest, you were like pushing out blood. So it's kind of a moot point, but we had to show that we were trying to keep this guy alive.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to keep their police guy alive. But something didn't add up to me. It was like, I kept saying, who is this guy? And we don't know. But he's a cop? Yeah, he's one of us. And what's his name? We don't know. I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. So the corpsman kind of takes over for a second. I run over. I still have like fucking blood all over my hands and body. And I'm like, I grab a kid who was with them in the car. I grab the driver of the car, and then I grab some random cop who was part of this group, and I separate them, and then I go one by one and interrogate each one. So the first guy I go up to is the kid. Best people to interrogate or to question is the kids, because you'd be nice to them, but they're honest. Kids don't lie. So I go up to the kid, and I'm like, what's this guy's name? Oh, I don't know. What's this guy's name? And so he knows all these things, but he doesn't know who this guy is, but he knows who these guys are. And then I asked the guy who was with him in the car. He doesn't know his name, but he knows he's he knows he's a police officer. I'm like, why is he only wearing the police pants? But he's not wearing the uniform. Oh, I don't know. Does he live here? I don't know. But the kid has never seen this guy before. He doesn't know who he is. He just knows like they're talking to him. But if the kid lives in the village and he's never seen this guy before, that means the guy doesn't live in the village. So something's fucking up with this guy. Long story short, I get the big picture. And the guy's dual hatting. So he's like Taliban by night, cop by day, collects 2 paychecks. So I figure it all out. And then that's when I was like, all right, this is fully justified. And I go up to the police chief and I'm like, you don't know his name because he's fucking Taliban and you know it.
Did you have an interpreter?
Yeah. Sorry. So I look at the guy, let the interpreter talk. And I told it to him. I'm like, straight up, like this is why you're being weird about it, is because you don't know him, but you know he's Taliban and you know he's also a cop, and you're getting all bent out of shape for nothing. And he kind of admits, he's like, okay, yes, we don't know who he is. But it was very common in Afghanistan where they would collect paychecks, and it was whether for greed or because they were forced to. It didn't matter. That was pretty common. I think I was happy with it because it proved we didn't shoot the wrong guys. Yeah. We shot the right dudes.
It's like the Viet Cong in Vietnam, like working in the barbershop during the day and tunnel ratting at night, against Americans. Like, it's textbook.
Yeah.
You said that in the car, were the sniper shots from, was he walking around? Is that how they shot him, or?
Yeah, I guess he had his, they had their AKs and they were walking towards us down the road. They shot him, and then there was like this downtime where we don't know where they went. And then 30 minutes later, he came back all bandaged up. So somebody was like tending to him. But then they brought him to us because they figured we'd have medics on us, and we did, but he needed a blood transfusion. That's what the medic had said. He's like, dude, this guy needs a blood transfusion. And to get a helicopter to come do that for a dude who's shooting, it was not happening.
Yeah.
So we just had to like buy time. And so pumping the guy's chest, and I've told this story a number of times, and I think in a way it's a little bit therapeutic, because as much as I was like, fuck this guy, whenever your hands are on a person who's dying, it's like there's an emotional experience. Like you're connecting with this like body and the soul. And so every time he'd wake up, he'd like put his hands on my face, just kind of like, he's like fighting for his life. And I was like, stop touching my fucking face. And so he would pass on, and then we'd pump him, and it just kept going on and on and on. And finally the guy passed. And really, like, the funny part of this story was earlier that day, I had bought a goat because I saw this goat farmer, and I was like, that'd be really nice to have a nice meal tonight, like a freshly cooked goat for the platoon. And so I buy this goat, and all day we were watching him, like, he butcher the goat, started like skinning it, getting it ready. And then all this shit went down, and they're like, life for a life, like, you just killed one of our guys, what are you going to give us? They like kept saying this, and I looked over, and that goat was like just fully butchered and ready to go. And I was like, how about a goat? And they accepted. And I was like, fuck, man, if I died, I hope my life wouldn't be like, my family's like, okay, you gave us a goat, all right, Mike's good to go.
Yeah. I think it paints a very real picture of what life is like there. I mean, something that I won't say that's that simple, because it's not, but something that I guess maybe on the surface seems that simple speaks volumes to what life is like there, and the value or the lack of value put on human life there.
Yeah.
It is interesting hearing you talk about kind of the emotional connection to pumping a guy's chest, even if it was somebody that was just a combatant. Did you feel anything emotionally when he actually died? Did that impact you?
I was kind of relieved. It was like, when you hunt and you kill an animal, you hope it dies quick. And, you sometimes it's still alive when you get there, you put the knife in, or, you watch it die. And it's not a joyous moment. You're not like, fuck yeah. Or if you are, maybe you're just like compensating for a little bit of that fear, uncomfortability you have. And for me, after working on this guy, like I was kind of hoping he'd make it through a little bit. You're like, all right, man, we got you back. And then when he finally passed, I was like, oh, fuck, thank God. Like, he's been through enough, no matter how shitty you are. Well, there's some people who need to die slowly, but yeah, I was relieved that finally it passed.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing, man. I think with soldiers and with fighting, there's this common, I don't want to be like soppy and say there's a common bond, but there really is a common bond. Like, this guy, we're the invader of his land. He's training and fighting for his land, fighting for, whatever that purpose is. And, so am I.
Yeah. I think there's a mutual respect, of the people that you're fighting, or there should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. No matter who you're fighting, I think you should respect the fact that they're doing the same thing that we're doing. Did you guys, you were a JTAC at that point? Yeah. Did you call in any CAS on that deployment?
No, I was, as Randy Beausoleil said, I sucked at JTACing. So I was, I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I was usually like the second or fourth JTAC. Like, I tried to keep myself off the radio as much as possible. So usually when I was controlling, it was just like sensor tasking and keeping an eye out and like here and there. We had a couple really good JTACs, Brian and Mike, top-notch fucking dudes.
As a platoon, did you guys use them?
No, on not to drop ordnance. It was always in Iraq. It was like most of our mission was done with the IR sparkles and the sensors, and then also the communication locating, right? Finding electronics. And so our JTACs were like specifically on that. Like, they would bring in a certain aircraft with a certain tech sensor to like find things. And then they would also stack where there were Apaches, and there would be a drone overhead watching Blue Force. It was a really complicated one, but Afghanistan was, it was just keeping Overwatch. There was no drops.
Did you guys have a dog with you?
Yeah, we had a dog there too.
Team guy dog or a?
That dog was a team guy dog. Taylor Canfield.
No shit.
Got moved over.
Nico?
Yes, it was. I think it was Nico.
No shit.
I forget. That dog tried to bite me one time.
That's a bad motherfucker.
He was laying on my stuff, and I was like, "Hey, get the fuck off!" And I went to reach for my stuff, and he lunged at me. What would have been like a straight dick bite.
Yeah.
Taylor had like grabbed him, and
yeah.
It's like, oh my god,
dude, Nico's a bad motherfucker. So Nico was a dog that myself and Wayne sourced while we were there, put through his first handler course, and paired him up with his first handler.
You trained that dog?
Who was not Taylor.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And then Taylor lives here in town, has Nico. Nico's still alive.
No way.
I've
seen photos on Instagram.
Yeah. He's within 10 minutes of you right now.
No way.
Yeah. Maybe we can. How late are you staying?
A couple hours. I think flights are like 4 or 5.
Oh, okay. I probably won't be able to link up with him. Fuck, I wish I'd have known that. Yeah, he's fucking right here. He was with the Warrior Dog Foundation for several years. His first handler couldn't take him, had a young family, and was at Great Lakes doing the motivator thing. And so we hung on to him for several years, and then Taylor got out and wanted to take him. He was his last handler, and so he came and picked him up and has had him for several years now. But man, what are the fucking odds on that? That's awesome.
Yeah, he was a great dog, man.
Any other good stories for him on that deployment?
For Taylor?
Or Taylor and Nico, I guess.
No, trying to think with the dog if we had. I like to use the dogs when I was questioning people, and I know Nico did this a few times where I don't know who trained him to do this, if it was you or Taylor, but the dog could put his nose and bury it in a guy's crotch and growl.
It was not me.
while questioning somebody.
Yeah.
And we did it in training, real world all the time, but in training, I remember doing it. And, in training, there's like role players.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, we had a role player. I don't think Nico was the dog who did it in training, but we had a role player who was like, I'm not saying shit. And I remember being like, all right, off the script, this dog is going to fucking bite your dick if you don't tell me where he's at. And the dog goes, and he's in the guy's dick. And he goes, okay, red. And I go, what? He goes, red, I'm done. Red was the code word for, I quit. And I was like, dude, this is role playing. I'm not actually going to have the dog bite your dick. And he was like, I'm done. I'm out of here.
I don't give a fuck.
And I laughed so hard, man. It was very effective.
Yeah, it's classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nico's awesome, man. One of my favorite dogs for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that dog. I actually had his brother also was a dog that I had years ago, but or maybe it was a half brother. Fuck, I don't remember. All right, so dogs, JTAC. Any other things take place on that deployment that were of note?
No, it was. Compared to some of the stories I've heard on this, none of that.
Yeah.
None of that. It was just straightforward, little bit of combat here and there, and nothing wild.
Yeah. Did you still just have one child at that point, or had your second been born?
Yeah, had my daughter and waited on the second one because the first one, my wife at the time was pregnant during that deployment.
Yeah.
She's like, not again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was nice and easy.
Yeah.
Show up and it's
Yeah.
done.
Well, you did all the heavy lifting.
I did.
Yeah.
Right? Took all the stress.
Yeah. All right. So when you came home from that deployment, had you decided at that point that was enough and you were done, or because you went to be an instructor, right?
Yeah. So I went to be an instructor, actually just because that was like the next step. But I wasn't done. My plan was to be an instructor, screen for a development group, and then and hopefully go and then spend my career there. What ended up happening was I went to be an instructor. One of the master chiefs who was there had basically, he said, hey, I think you'd be a good fit. You should go screen. And he gave me like a green light of like, hey, I'm going to vouch for you to go try out. And I went home and I told my wife at the time the news, because I was honored. It was like a fucking legend telling me like you might be able to do it. And she was like, well, if you go to Virginia, I'm taking the kids, I'm taking your daughter. We're not going with you.
Wow.
And that was the moment where I realized, I was like, well, fuck, if I can't continue progressing in my career, then I'm just flatlining. I'm not moving forward. And that was when I knew like my time was pretty much over. So I was about a year and a half into instructing at the time. I did not want to get out. I loved my job. The instructing was like the best job of my life. It was absolutely amazing. And so I extended a year just to try to like delay the inevitable before getting out.
Is she still your wife?
No. The irony, getting out for somebody and then you don't stay together anyway.
Yeah. Well, so I'm curious. Was that the beginning of the end? Her not supporting you? Like, because for me, trying to put myself in your shoes, that would be a difficult thing to get through.
Yeah.
Because to me, I mean, there's a lot going on there that's bigger than just saying we don't want to move there.
Yeah. To say it was the beginning of the end, it's like putting like a point on it. I think it was a long road of unhappiness between both of us. The life in the teams is absolutely horrible on families. And she made it through that. It was just like when I was home, my head was like, oh, I want to go out with the boys. And like, it was, when you work with the boys, it's not the same as going out with the boys. And the teams consumes your life and your family. But that was my goal, man. That's all I wanted to do since I was 12 years old. Yeah. Imagine that. Like you know this, but I'm saying to them, imagine that. Like your entire life, all you want to do is one thing. And then somebody's like, I don't want you doing it anymore. And you're like, what?
Yeah. Well, and it's not just that either. It's saying I'm going to keep you away from your children if you continue to do this.
Yeah. So then the choice wasn't, do you want to be married to me? It was, do you want your family?
Yeah. Man, that's tough.
Yeah.
So you extend a year. I guess before we get into that, any other good instructor stories of you? Well, were there any other students that gave you a run for your money?
The fighting, there were every class usually had one or two like fighters.
Yeah.
And that gave me a lot of hope because when I was going through training, the combatives program was absolute dog shit. Yeah. And some guys fought like Mitch, who you had on. Mitch had big, heavy hands, wasn't a jiu-jitsu guy. There was another dude, Brennan, who could grapple. But the program wasn't training guys to fight. And when I came in, there were, for let's say 50 guys, there were 15 sets of gloves and 15 sets of mitts. And it was just 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That was the combatives program, like once a week in third phase. And I thought, what a tragedy. So that was my mission. I put in for it. I wrote up the curriculum, the description, all 3 phases. Now I say it like I ran the whole thing. It takes like a full team of headshot and everyone to make this happen. But I was the one pushing to get a budget and pads issued to all the students.
And that's in each phase.
So in each phase, so the moment a guy would graduate Hell Week now, he would get issued an entire set of pads.
Oh, nice.
And then every phase had their own like core fighting. So it was like boxing, and then second phase was supposed to be like Muay Thai, even though it kind of like changed. And then third phase, we had this monster cage built out on San Clemente, like a 60-person, 13-foot-high fence.
It's like some WWE Battle Royale shit.
And man, we would get it on, and like it would be covered in sweat and blood at the end. Guys were all fucking concussed, and guys, like, I remember in third phase when I was going through, if you had the option of waking up at 5 or waking up at 6, there's no amount of money that would make you wake up at 5. And we'd be like, all right, guys, well, the only way we can do combatives tomorrow is if you wake up at 5. And they'd all be like, we're doing it. And the tea would flow.
Yeah.
Everyone would come out swinging. And I would do this thing where I would say, how many of you have never been in a fight? And every class, 10% or more would raise their hand. They've never been in a fight. So I was like, you guys are about to go to war and fight for your lives. You've never been punched in the face. Now's the time. So we would scrap with those guys. We'd, kind of beat the dog shit out of them. But it wasn't out of anything but love. It was like, build these guys up to know what it's like to really fight and build that fighting culture into the force.
Of that 10% of all the guys that ever raised their hand that had never been in a fight, were any of them a surprising handful for having never been in a fight?
I mean, they're all hyper athletic alphas, right? Even the ones we call pussies are still like tougher than
Top
half the guys in the street. Yeah. So yeah, they put up fights, even if they don't know the technique. You know, they put up fights. Some of them hit hard as shit. I had some guys who were like Golden Gloves dudes.
Yeah.
I've like serious concussions from those guys.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let them know it.
Did any of the fights end up rolling students?
Well, there were a few injuries, very rare. We did have a dude get hip tossed, and he didn't know how to fight. So as he was getting hip tossed, he like planted his heels. So as he twisted, his like tib fib like twisted and snapped.
Damn.
And it happened behind me, and I heard, and then But like, we're talking 1 out of 1,000.
Yeah.
With serious injury like that.
Yeah. So from the third phase component, is it kind of bringing it all together and it's well-rounded combatives? Is that how you're trying to finish it?
Yeah. Like I think we had put jiu-jitsu as like the topic, but it was everything.
Yeah.
So we were teaching jiu-jitsu, we were teaching combatives, we were teaching multi-attackers, we were teaching, Muay Thai. It was really just about fighting, getting it on. Like, now you have a gun, fight like that. And that was a big difference to what we had before. And I think, I don't know if it's still going on. I hope it is.
Yeah. Do you know, as far as the actual teams are concerned, is combatives a part of physical training now, or is it a block of training in a workup?
There's a block of training in SQT. I knew that. But then once you got to the team, no, it was on guys, individuals. And so I remember checking in on my team, and amazing dudes, great operators, but like almost none of them could fight. And not that I was like amazing, but I was like researching YouTube videos on how to do like a anaconda choke, and then showing the guys how to do it. And like, we would fight to like learn. And then in Afghanistan, a couple guys fought. But I remember being like, man, you show up to a platoon. Maybe that was my big surprise, was showing up to a platoon thinking everyone was going to kick the shit out of me. And I was like,
they couldn't fight as much as you thought.
Yeah.
Wow.
But my hope was that it's changed, because I know a lot of good fighters who are coming out of there. And one of my former students, Bobby Winther, who's now a pro fighter, he's bad to the fucking bone. And
where does he fight?
He fights in San Diego. He's doing like Cage Warriors fights. And we back him, man. My company backs him. Like, I'll back him for life. The dude is like such a genuine human being. And he's a brown belt, but the guy should be black. He's fucking everyone up. But he's also, good with his hands. And so he's now helping train guys how to fight. So now the teams are actually getting pro fighters.
Oh, good.
To help them, fight, and I think it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. So how did your career kind of wrap up? Ultimately, personal life, professional, coming to a head, getting out and deciding to start defense strategies. So my last year in the teams, I didn't know what I was going to do, because I never had a goal outside of the team. So I went to business school. And then when I got out, I had one more year of business school, so I got a job up in Los Angeles, and it was paying me the most money for the time I could be in school. So I was dual hatting all day long. I'd be working, 40, 50-hour weeks, hour work weeks, and then on the weekends I would come back to San Diego. I was getting my MBA at UC San Diego, and it was just this flip-flop, and I was burning the candle at both ends, man. It was 7 days a week, and kids and everything. But I knew that I didn't know what I was going to do. And I knew I didn't have business acumen. Like, guys in the military give up their apprentice years. They give up their 20s, where most people are like learning how to get coffee for their boss and learning how to like type and do all these like administrative things, learning the skills of their trade. We're learning how to fight and kill. And so I went back to school for that. And while I was working at these different companies, they kept asking me to basically do security work as a side thing.
Hey, can you do threat assessments here? Hey, can you train this? And I kept training people how to shoot on the side because every day was awful. Every day was the worst day. It was like Office Space. I'm wearing a suit and tie to a job that like barely, like, why are you wearing a suit and tie? We see each other every day. Why the formality? I'm used to flip-flops, board shorts. And I found myself just like miserable. So I would go on the weekends and teach these shooting classes to people. And it gave me this little bit of like, this is who I am. And that's who I used to be. And it kept me connected to like my core. And I started meeting some great people in this shooting community in California, and realized that that's it's actually bigger than people think. It's like California is the joke,
But it's like Fight Club almost.
Yeah, and there are more shooters in California than like fucking anywhere, and people don't realize that because most of them are in the closet. They're hiding from letting people know they own guns. And long story short, in 2020, the company I was at went under, and I had my back against the wall. I'd always wanted to start my own business, but I was fiscally conservative and never had the balls to do my own thing. But that was the catalyst. I had no option. I couldn't put my resume out during COVID. That was stupid. So finally I got the balls, and I was like, let's do this real. Like, we have these experts, and we're not giving people, we want to give people these skills, and we have this opportunity, but we're not doing it on a mass level. We're just like doing it occasionally. And we have all these people hitting us up for training. So we started just teaching classes, and we put up some classes on Instagram, and they sold out immediately. And it just kept growing from there. And then we got licensed as a security company. So we have two businesses. One is tactical training, and one is security. And the people we're training, everyone's like, oh, you probably train a lot of cops and military. And we do. We train some. We've trained everyone from Secret Service, FBI. We've trained sheriffs, local cops, things like that. But our bread and butter is training normal people, everyday citizens, how to defend themselves. And that's given me, and I know the team, such like a profound sense of purpose. Like, when you wake up in the day, how are you affecting your community? Well, we're making people more capable, confident humans. So that's what we've been doing ever since. And it's been a wild ride, because we started realizing that by making content for this training, we could get to more people. Right? I can put a video up and 500,000 people watch it, or I can teach a class of 10. And while I like teaching the class of 10 because I get to see the change, I would much rather get to see everyone getting little bits of this, because the knowledge we had in the military, if more people had this knowledge, I really do think the better off we would be, right? We know this from jiu-jitsu. We know this from fighting. When kids learn how to fight, when people learn how to fight, they aren't bullies. Yeah. They become better people because they know what they're capable of. They're confident. And the same thing with these skills. I know if you're a deadly motherfucker, I'm not going to mess with you. I'm not going to talk shit online. I'm not going to like be a dick on the street. I'm going to be nice, right? Normal. And so we're training people to do this. And as we've been now being more vocal and present online and social media, it's been wild. Like, seeing the diverse opinions in the tactical space online, it's we get crazy haters.
Yeah. Like what? What's an example?
A lot of it comes from the competition world.
Like competition shooters?
Yeah. Not all of them. It's typically like only like the competition only guys, the guy that's all they do.
Yeah.
And they'll hate on our stuff, and I just think like
critiquing your technique?
Whatever it is. Anything we do, it's like something is not up to their standard. Oh, you're not even using a shot clock timer. You don't use data. And I just think to myself, like, guys, this is the message I want to pass to all of them, is like, we are all on the same team. And this is the team. The team is, there are more or less half of this country thinks guns are the reason all this bad stuff is happening, even though we know it's not. And every time the gun industry, the people in the gun world, the competition shooters, the tactical guys fight about this shit, it makes one more potential person who's like thinking about joining this like section, and they're like turned off to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're on the same team, man, because when a guy comes to learn how to shoot from me, as he gets better, what does he do? He goes off to the competition guy and wants to get even better and better.
Yeah. Well, to me, it reminds me of the government or higher ups keeping people distracted with race and sex and cultural issues and whatever, while they're fucking us over.
Yeah.
It's keeping everybody distracted and arguing about dumb shit when the bigger picture, like, you're not even cognizant of it. You run into a lot of that same kind of stuff in the dog industry where, it's like you put a video out and there's a bunch of other people talking shit about how you fucked it up, and they're so in the weeds on shit that it's just, I think kind of similarly, like, I don't think, to my knowledge, I can't ever recall going on somebody else's page or stream or YouTube channel or whatever and commenting about how they're fucking something up.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, who does that? Even if that's what you think, like, why would you take the time to comment on it?
It's a mental health issue.
Yeah.
It really is. It's I see something on your page, I hear you say something, and I go, it threatens my core in some way, my insecurity, and now it not only threatens it, I have to say something.
Yeah.
Right? To voice my opinion. I have to be fucking heard. Well, guess what? No, you don't. Nobody has to be heard. Just like, if you don't like it, swipe.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah, I don't get it.
So we've been fighting the fight, man. Like, we're in Los Angeles, and people are like, oh, the gun laws are terrible there. The people must be terrible. And it's like, well, isn't that the place you should be focusing your efforts? Is like showing people that you can be normal. You could be your woke ass self, getting your vanilla latte. That's actually me though. You could be going off to your coffee shop in the day, but still know how to defend yourself.
Yeah.
Still know how to fight, build a fire. You exercise, man. Like, how many guys I see walking around LA that's like, they're just feminine. Like, they don't work out. And it's like, well, then what value do you provide?
Yeah. Yeah. What good are you? I agree. I'm curious. So I guess with that, where is the goal to take, I guess, both companies, right? It's two separate entities.
Yeah. I mean, security is security. Anytime somebody needs protection, like my goal has always been to get more veterans purpose. Because when I got out, I remember just going, I hate this world that I'm in.
Yeah.
It's not about each other. It's about just fucking making money, stabbing people in the back to make more money. And so giving veterans a home, whether it's temporary or permanent, because they can use their skills, right? They can use their skills and they're needed, and just run that business. And then with training, it's similar, giving vets a home, but passing on these skills. Because I remember growing up going, I'm that squeaky wheel running my mouth and I don't have the skills to back it up. And then coming out of the military going, I can do anything. And if I don't know how to do it, I know how to learn it. I know how to figure it out. And what a feeling that was of confidence. And I get to see this every day. We bring people in and we watch them over a course of a few weeks, taking classes, learning things, not just from us, they're taking classes elsewhere. And they become these, like, they got almost that swagger, like when guys come out of SQT and they're like, what's up, Mike? How you doing? And you're like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
You see that swagger in them and you're like, right on. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
We're here to make them not need us for training,
Yeah. So on the security side, that all sounds good. On the other side of the token, do you have a 5-10 year plan? Does it just continue to grow? Like, where do you see yourself?
It's for security, yeah, it's standard business grow. The more clients want it, but with training, I thought long and hard about this. Like, we're bringing on me, Zach, and Angel. We're like the core, and we've got a few like good instructors that we keep in the tight group. We're opening a facility in Beverly Hills. We partnered with our friend who runs Modern Warrior. They're rebranding, but that's coming in the pipeline pretty soon. The goal is not necessarily to bring more and bigger. It's to reach more people. So content, obviously, but also that building that community, because there are so many veterans and there are so many people who are missing community and missing purpose in their lives.
Yeah.
And having a space or having a location where people can come to on the day-to-day and change their lives, that's to me more rewarding than any dollar amount. I would love somebody to drop a bunch of money off in my office one day, But if all I get is notes from people saying how you affected my life, that's all I need.
Yeah.
And I know the guys are the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. On the personal side, when you got out, were you still married, or how did that whole shake down?
When I first got out, I was still married and working both jobs, or working and going to school at the same time. It was a nightmare, man. Went through like a really bad health thing where like my brain stopped producing a signal to like produce testosterone, getting beat up, head injury, stuff like that. And so I had this like chemical depression where I had no T, like not, oh, my T was low. Like I had 5, the number 5, single digit 5. My 6-year-old son at the time, or 4, or whatever, had more T than I did. And I didn't know that for like a year. I knew it was low. I was getting like bitch tits, and I was getting hot flashes, and I was hating my marriage because I was coming home and we were just fighting like cats and dogs. And anyway, it was a really bad transition for me. I hated my work. I had no purpose, and the community I loved so much was like gone. So it took a number of years. It took a hormone replacement. I met this incredible doctor. The Seal Future Foundation set me up with a brain doctor who started focusing on that and focusing on me. It wasn't just the generic VA who was like, here's some pills, because they did. They're like, here's some pills. And I was like, fuck off, man. That got me on track. And then a friend introduced me to psychedelics. And I don't know if on the show, if you go over that kind of stuff, or if you're fine with that. But
yeah, we've had a number of guys talk about it.
Okay. Well, for me, it absolutely changed my life. And I know it's like a funny, sensitive topic for some people, especially in like conservative circles.
Yeah.
And it's always made me laugh, because I'm like, you'll pull out a bottle of whiskey and you'll get shit-faced with me because that's socially acceptable. But you won't go do some mushrooms, which, is the same thing, only it's healing, it's not suppressing. And long story short, I went through like a 3-year period of just training my brain and building my emotional capacity. And you leave the teams and I think you're physically strong and you're mentally strong, but I'll speak for myself, emotionally weak. So I spent the last few years just building that, and that's been part of my mission as well. Is like, if I have a guy in need, guys hurting, anyone on my team, my company, I'll forward them to these different places, because it changed my life, and I know everyone I've seen go through it, it's changed their lives.
Yeah, that's super powerful and impactful. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've had a number of guys on here that have done the Mexico trips with ayahuasca and all that stuff. I never have, but I've seen so many guys benefit massively from it. It no doubt seems like it's helpful, to say the least. Obviously, you got divorced somewhere in there.
Yeah, so right in the middle of that time, I was like, I was at the point, I'm like, I'm just done. And it was me. It was my fault. It was not like I could look back and be like, oh, she was terrible. She wasn't terrible, and it was what I was going through at the time, and I just didn't want to be married anymore. And I'm happy with that decision. I did not want to be married. I do not want to be married. But I take full blame for it. I was not in a headspace when I came home, and I had never worked on it. Like, you work on the mission first. It's always about the mission. It's always about the job. And you start neglecting a lot of the support network, the support around you that makes you good. Yeah. And I'd neglected that for a long time.
Yeah. Are you remarried now or no?
No. Girlfriend, not married, but have my kids half the time. And
yeah. And you got them doing jiu-jitsu and fighting, generally speaking, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, so Zach's coming on the show here in another month-ish. You guys grapple a lot.
Yeah. So we don't get together as much as we like, but we do train.
Yeah. Who bests each other?
he is a beast, but you know, he does no-gi and it's like super slippery, and that stuff is like, you know, anyway. No, he's really good. He's a monster. One day I'm going to put a gi on him and just choke him the fuck out. But,
well, you're a bit bigger than he is though, right?
I'm a bit bigger. Mostly he's got tiny calves and I have monster calves. But no, Zach's been awesome. He's
he seems like a good dude.
He's going to be a good addition. Well, he's a great addition to the team, but he's going to be a good addition to the show.
Yeah.
Really embodies the mindset of just being better. You know, he competes shooting, competes jiu-jitsu, does all these things, takes the criticism online. He's like, fuck you guys. Like, he's so good at being vulnerable. It's really impressive. It helps me, because sometimes I want to go back into my shell of expertise.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, fuck it. Put yourself out there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to having him on. I did want to get your take politically, I guess. Here, especially recently, you know, we talked a little bit about the stuff in Syria, the drone attacks, but also we just currently, or very recently, lost a couple of brothers in the Red Sea doing VBSS. I wanted to kind of get your take on that, as well as just, you know, having been in Afghanistan, seeing that withdrawal, looking back, reflecting, having been in Iraq and Afghanistan, like how do you feel about all of it kind of collectively?
Man, that's a lot. Speaking first to the team guys, VBSS, so boarding ships at night, we used to do that in training all the time. And whether it's training or real world, it's always real. And it's probably the scariest thing above water you could do, right? Hook in the back of the ship at night. You're hanging over the propellers. The sea state's going up and down. The boat driver's trying to stay on station, and the ladder's swinging around. The fact that more guys haven't died doing that is incredible. It takes a 50-pound bag of balls to go up a hook and climb and do that. It absolutely just fucking terrible. Like, and then to hear that one of the dudes might have jumped in to save his brother, you know, it's heartbreaking. So there's nothing really I can say on it besides those guys, you know, absolute fucking heroes. They're doing the scariest work imaginable, and they died doing it. So absolute, you know, the most respect I can give someone.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
As far as the Afghanistan withdrawal and just kind of how things are going, Ukraine, do you have any positions on any of it? Or I guess, not to interrupt, but do you find yourself spending much time from a current event standpoint and from like a foreign policy standpoint, paying much attention to what we're doing and having opinions on it?
I do. I have opinions, but I also I realize I'm not in the game, so kind of shut the fuck up a little bit. The guys in the game, the guys wearing the uniforms, those are the guys whose opinions really matter. My opinion on Afghanistan was that, since I was there, I can say it, we should have been out of there years ago, man. Like, Afghanistan is a fucked up place, but we also know that Afghanistan was not where the fucking planes came from, right? So we went into a 20-year war that essentially had not a whole lot to do with us. And we just spent the last decade of it just waiting and waiting. The way we pulled out was fucked. I don't know why we didn't just drop a JDAM on all the things we left behind. But for whatever reason, let's outfit the Taliban and do that. I'm not privy to all the info, so I don't want to be super ignorant, but that's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
And the way we're handling, you know, all the stuff going on right now, I remember, you know, when Ukraine first kicked off, a friend of mine and I went to Poland to pull people out. We hired to pull people out of that country.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But I just remember that country was in a similar state. It reminded me of like when COVID first hit and the PPP loan was coming out, and it was just like, fill out a form, get your money. That's the way the whole thing was. It was like everyone is just back channel communicating, trying to get stuff done, resources, things, money, and it was all like the Ukrainian military guys were like recruiting, and they were trying to onboard people, and you'd get these messages like, oh yeah, we need this, we need that, we need that. and like nobody was willing to pay for it. It was just like donate. And it was a shit show. And I thought, okay, it'll get streamlined, but it seems to still be that shit show. And you're finding out all this money you're giving to people, of course, the corruption sets in. So I feel like we're just throwing money at a problem. Do I think it's going to turn into like a 5 to 10 year guerrilla warfare, just wearing down Russia like Afghanistan did? Yeah. But do I think we need to be the sponsor of it? Man, we can't even afford our own country.
Yeah. Do you think that, I guess I would say, is there a scenario that exists from a personal constitution standpoint on your end where U.S. troop involvement, boots on the ground, is justified in Ukraine?
I guess my short answer is no, because we would never allow the troops to do the job that they would need to do to get it done.
Yeah.
We would put troops there as a show. They would get killed, and we would do nothing about it.
Yeah.
If you want to put troops in, you go full on war and you fucking scorched earth that place. Not Ukraine, but the place next to it. And you win the war and you defeat the military.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I agree. Do you feel the same way about the Israel-Palestine Hamas situation? Do you think it warrants any U.S. troop involvement there?
I don't think we need troop involvement. I think Israel's got it locked down. And I get some people. I don't know what it is. Some people message me on Instagram like pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas things. Maybe they think I'm like, do you not remember that I spent the last decades of my life fighting Islamic extremism? You think I'm supporting that shit?
So they sent it to you like thinking.
Yeah, they'll send me shit where it's like anti-Zionist or fucking anti-Semitic, and I'm like, who do you think I am?
Are these just random fucking people or people you actually know?
I've never met any of these people.
So weird.
It's so weird. And like these like young kids today, like saying, I sound so old saying that. These young kids today.
Fucking whippersnappers.
But it's kids. It's kids, like 20 to 25-year-old kids saying how Israel is committing genocide. It's like, look, one group has been trying to defend itself from existence for hundreds of years. Another group has been trying to wipe off non-believers for hundreds of years. That's it. That's all you have to say. It's like there's no. I don't think there's a limit you can draw on defending your life, defending your country, and the stance that Israel's taking, my opinion, is the right one.
Yeah.
It's fucking put Hamas into submission.
Yeah. Do you see much of that living in Los Angeles? A lot of pro-Palestinian rallies and shit?
It's insane, man.
That's so fucking weird to me.
My thought is people look at Palestine. We see Israel and then we see Palestine, and visually you go, oh, underdog. Everyone wants to root for the underdog, and you go, no. It's Israel and like the Jewish faith, and then Palestine, but the Islamic faith. I'm not saying war with Islam. I'm saying that you're having a group that is truly a minority, but their land is bigger, and everyone looks at that and they said, oh, well, these are the poor guys. It's like, no, they're being backed and funded by like a massive, massive world population.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky scenario. There's no two ways about it. There's a lot of history there that I think a lot of people are ignorant to, and I think, most importantly or most prominently is that there's just a lot of people here in the United States and worldwide that are just really ignorant, and are very easily manipulated and influenced online.
Yeah.
And they're just fucking brainwashed, and they don't even know what they're talking about, and it is scary to me that people are that easily manipulated. Because it happens nonstop, it's almost like good marketing on TikTok and Instagram of these groups of people that are just fucking bending people's minds and melting them into exactly what they want. It's frightening.
Yeah.
You see a lot of that with a lot of social issues, I think, but kind of going back to being in the LA scene, can you share any of the clients that you've worked with that you have any cool stories with? I know most of them have you under NDAs, but
yeah, I mean, I can't really talk like specific clients just for that reason. Sorry.
Oh, I'm tracking. Anything else that you want to talk about, bring up, plug, etc.?
I can't remember if I had anything to plug or not. We did train the Stallone family.
Oh yeah.
For their new series, or not their new series, so the new season of their show, The Family Stallones. We're going to be on the season premiere February 21st.
Shit.
It was absolutely so much fun. We got to, there were no weapons involved, just like boot camp style physical workouts. Trained his daughters and taught them a few skills. They were fucking tough and really, really stoked because I got to hang out with Stallone like the entire time and talk with him. And it was such a fantastic experience. And that's going to be on, I think, Paramount.
Oh, no shit.
And a few other channels.
So in person, he was pretty cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
And, I was the dork just like ogling. Like I couldn't believe I'm talking to the guy who's Rocky Balboa.
Yeah. And Rambo.
And Rambo.
Yeah.
And all these amazing movies. And he couldn't have been nicer, more down to earth.
Did he get into any of the physical stuff or was he just hanging out?
Actually, I won't even say because it's probably more surprised if I don't. He is the most jacked, like 70-year-old man I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
He's like you look at him and you're like, oh my gosh, this dude's more fit than most guys in their 20s.
Yeah.
And wow, he's not.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, good shit. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come here and share your story. I love the transition period, especially the, finding your way and working through the, what you said about being, mentally tough and physically tough, but emotionally weak resonated with me a lot. I think I was 100% in that same boat, as I got out and went through kind of all the same shit, going through divorce and, splitting time with kids and, there's a lot going on there, family dynamic wise when you have, the head of the household being in that position, and I think a lot of families end up paying for it, unfortunately, but it's nice to hear both one that, just again from kind of a connection standpoint of hearing a lot of similarities, but that you got through it, made the best of it, and ultimately, from my perspective, triumphed and are now doing everything that you want to do and making a big difference. So that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you, and appreciate having me on, but also appreciate what you're doing because letting guys tell their stories is one, therapeutic for them. I can see it with the guys who come out, but also it's so great for the public in general to hear these stories because it bridges the gap between military and non-military, and that is, I think, what's missing the most when guys get out and they feel alone is this disconnect between, less than 1% is serving, and you go into a room and nobody knows that story.
Yeah.
And what you do is allow people to tell that story, and it bridges this gap. And I think it makes people where you walk into a room and they're like, oh, I don't know you, but I know that background because I've heard it before. And anyway, I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pleasure to do it. I mean, I get messages all the time from military and non-military kind of, being appreciative of that. And especially even on the military side, guys that, hearing somebody tell a story that resonated with them that made a huge difference in their life, kind of similarly, like to me, that's the biggest compliment I could get is, being able to impact somebody's life like that by giving guys like you a platform to tell your story. So I'm fucking honored to do it. Parting gift, as always, John Johnston and Champion Choice Silver have some cool gifts here. I would especially love to see you rocking what's in that black box out in Los Angeles at some point. So
this is freaking cool.
Yeah, if you can show the camera there. Got some different styles. This one's more on the tactical side, which I thought would be fitting for you. So thanks to John and Champion Choice because they provide all that stuff for all the guests. So
thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is Rad.
No, absolutely. So can't thank him and those guys enough. Again, thank you for coming. We sure appreciate everything. To you guys, the viewers, I say it, most shows, but I just want to reiterate my gratitude and thanks for your support show after show. If not for you guys, we wouldn't be able to do this. So I appreciate each and every one of you, especially the ones in the comments giving me shit about pick a subject. Keeps everybody honest and keeps me laughing half the time. So hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, feel free to choke yourself. And until next time, this is Mic Drop.